Welcome to the DeFi Standard. This is Patty XRP, and unfortunately, Mickey just dropped off right there. Really sorry about that, everybody. Just having some issues in the background. He's popping back on. Hey, Mickey, how's it going?
How we doing? We got a special guest today. We got Crypto Ceej with us. Just having a little technical difficulties with the microphone today, but we'll get through it. So let's start off with these exchanges. Finally seeing some movement. The community has taken action, putting pressure. Binance did a 180. We saw a few others say they're going to release SGB. And Patty and Ceej, this reminds me of exactly what happened before the airdrop, the snapshot of our XRP last December. So it goes to show how, as a community, we actually have this, really strong influence over these exchanges to get them to release our assets. So good job. I want to congratulate the community and keep at it. And eventually Coinbase will too. So we're getting close. Flare Network's not going to be too long away. I would say a couple of months. But let's start off talking about a couple of things with Ceej here. So what brought you into the crypto space, and what got you really interested in DeFi, Ceej?
Yeah, absolutely. So welcome to everybody out there hanging out on the live stream for sure. It's really, and I appreciate you guys bringing me on to talk and hang out today. I've been looking forward to this for a long, long time. It's really great to connect with like-minded people in the space for sure. But I got into crypto, guys, in late 2016, early 2017. I just really kind of stumbled across it, really. I don't even know how. I was just hanging out on YouTube, and the next thing you know, I'm buying Bitcoin. And it was a very, very interesting time. And I always tell people that I got into this space via the lending platform space, right? So, the BitConnects of the world. So this is how I kind of entered the space. And I was taking my hard-earned, dirty, nasty fiat and buying Bitcoin and trading the Bitcoin up for some made-up token from a lending platform. When I think about that today, that is the correct Bitcoin and Ethereum. Like can you imagine Bitcoin and Ethereum in 2016? And I'm buying this valuable asset and trading it for these lending platform tokens, promising 1%, 2%, 3% a day in interest. Was very, very, very interesting to say the least. And so I finally got my head on straight after about a year of doing that, and just decided to just hold on to the valuable assets and accumulate them. And then I started a YouTube channel after that. But the transition into DeFi for me was really, really, it was simple, right? And it was easy because it was very, very obvious to realize this is where we were going. And, I say on my channel all the time that this is not your 2017, 2018 digital asset space. We have evolved, and decentralized finance is part of the future. It really is. And so, I just got started real simple with the easy ones. I call them the blue chippers, right? So I got started with Aave, and I got started with Curve, just to test the platforms out and see what they're about. I started with Celsius, more of a CeFi platform, just to kind of see what it's about and how am I going to be treated, right? And so, how are your assets treated, right? That's where you want to go. You want to go to the place where your assets are treated best. And for me, that was in the DeFi space. And so I started with, test everything out a little small, and then went heavy on Celsius and heavy on Aave and heavy on Curve. But that's how I got started, hanging out with the blue chippers. And then, all those other ones, it's $50 or less that I put at risk. But with the blue chippers, started small and then went heavy with those, because I just think, for me personally, they treat my assets the best there, right? They treat me and my assets the best. And I just believe that's what we all should consider going to, where we are treated best.
Yeah, and it's very interesting, I think, that you went out there and looked for, a passive income stream. Like, hey, I'm putting all this value in, and how can I generate more revenue and compound my wealth with that? And DeFi is still very immature right now. And we were talking about this before the show. I've tested many DeFi protocols on different platforms, and it's still very difficult to do, and it's still very confusing. There's some projects that, you know, are just starting up. You don't know if they're going to make it. There's a lot of overlapping, but we're at that point, I feel like now, where DeFi is about to hit that next phase, where we're going to move into a DeFi 2.0. And that's really when things, I think, are going to ramp up. And I would say we're probably another year or so away from it, but we're getting there. And it's just great to see that. When I first got into crypto, it was, you know, thinking of buying something, waiting for it to go up in value, going to the moon, and then being very wealthy. And that was the only way to really do it. Back when Bitcoin was there, we didn't have lending in 2017 and 2018. It was capital appreciation. And as I researched more, I realized it's passive income, but it's more than that. It's about the community that you're part of when you own these cryptos and interact on social platforms. But it's even more than that. You're part of a bigger community of stakeholders of that network. So validators, nodes, developers, app developers, Ripple, you know, whoever's building on that network is a community, and no one person has control of it. And this idea of decentralized networks is great for infrastructure, but now with decentralizing finance is the next real step here. And this is what's going to break down those legacy walls ultimately. And, you know, we just got to just keep on the new innovations that keep coming out. So Patty's done a great job keeping us at the forefront here on some of the technicals with DeFi, like liquidity pools and all those complicated things. I see the comments in the YouTube video. Oh, this is really complicated. And I understand, like, it's very complicated if it's unfamiliar to you and you never used it. But like Ceej said, the best way is sometimes get your hands dirty, try it out, you know, just don't use a lot of money. And that's what we have Songbird for. So, Patty, what do you think the status on Songbird is?
Yeah, I mean, one of the interesting things from Hugo's interview the other day with Tony was the fact, you know, that they have not started testing the state connector system yet or the F asset system. It looks like they want to go ahead and put together the first governance proposal. So I think we'll start getting governance initiated here in another week or two, which I'm excited to see how that's going to go. I'd really like to see how people are going to be able to delegate to individual wallets or addresses, or how that could be set up. Because certainly, you know, if we end up having millions of Songbird holders, or even right now, I think the wallets are over 100,000. Obviously, some people are going to have multiple wallets, but, you know, I don't think everybody can be expected to keep up with everything going on all the time with, you know, that are Songbird holders. But that, you know, doesn't mean that they kind of have to be, like apathetic. Like they can, you know, essentially delegate their votes to other people that can vote on referendums and stuff, which, you know, that takes a little effort on your part to kind of find those people that you trust, and people that are willing to do that. And, you know, you can just delegate to them and let them vote on your behalf like you would a representative in, you know, a lot of governments around the world, how they do that. So I think that's interesting. I really want to see what the proposal is too. I think it has to do with the rewards, but I'm having a hard time thinking what would change about that. So not entirely sure, but yeah, it also seems like, I mean, Flare is definitely not launching until I would say probably second half of December at this point. And then considering half of that second half has Christmas Eve and New Year's Eve all bundled into it, I mean, I probably place my bets on sometime in January at this point. But, you know, if this is what it takes to get it working, I mean, Polkadot has had several pushbacks. When I was trying to figure out when parachain auctions were going to happen, you know, people were originally speculating this summer, and they're not getting started till November. We know Cardano, certainly people have been expecting, you know, full dApps to be coming out, and they're still, you know, getting things worked up and going. I think a lot of people have a lot of great ideas now. It's just really hard to realize those in short periods of time, especially with the amount of money that's getting put on these ecosystems. So, you know, you think about, you could spin up a project, and if there's only $1 million on it, you know, it's not as big of a deal in that case. But a lot like Avalanche, Solana, Ceej, you mentioned them. I mean, their TVL has shot into the multiple billions of dollars almost overnight. So, you know, that's another thing that gets me excited about Flare. You know, I I was saying the price of Songbird was going to be, maybe 5 cents at most when we originally thought about it. Totally underestimated the XRP community and how hungry they were for this. Also, obviously, didn't take into account how many exchanges would hold the token. But to me, I think there's a huge appetite for this. Even if it's not the entire community at this point, it's a lot of people, and it's only going to grow.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, the whole thing with Songbird and, Mickey, you mentioned community and community driven. I think that kind of speaks to network adoption. And I think that everyone is paying attention to network adoption, including exchanges, right? And they're not going to miss out on that. Network adoption is massive. It doesn't matter if it's a meme coin or if it's a real viable project like Songbird. Network adoption is everything. And they're paying attention to that. And so, when you think about the likes of Binance making, doing that 180, like there's a reason for that, right? They think money first. And so, network adoption plays a huge part in that. And so do we, as a community, being, one of the biggest, and I think the smartest communities out there. And so, when I look at Songbird and I think what they're going to do, obviously I think about Kusama, but I think about the ecosystems that are going to be built. What I've been doing over the last 2 or 3 months is really studying the ecosystems behind Solana, studying the ecosystems behind Terra Luna, behind Avalanche, right? Learning what they're doing and the discussions that they have and the new projects that are being built on them. So because I think that just gives us a great foundation for what Songbird ecosystem, I believe it's going to have an ecosystem and what the Flare Network's ecosystem is going to become. And so I really do think the move forward for a lot of us is, deciding to be all in on an ecosystem, right? And we have a head start with Flare as XRP holders, right? We have an opportunity to go all in, if you will. And I don't mean all your money. I mean a commitment to participating in the ecosystem, And that's what those communities are doing. They're participating a little bit of their money, a little bit of their time, a little bit of their energy on each of the platforms that get built on the main network. That's what they're doing. And they're creating their own platforms as well. And so with Flare Networks, with the XRP Ledger, with Songbird, we have a nice advantage to be early and we can participate in. When I studied the Curve ecosystem and what those guys were doing over there, I mean, it's phenomenal. And I do think, I don't know if Flare can compete, but I really do think that the XRP Ledger and that ecosystem can compete with the likes of Curve, can compete with the likes of Aave. And I'm excited to be able to participate and do what I can to help it grow.
Well, what's interesting, actually, Mickey, I don't know if you noticed this, but I was looking through the list of speakers at Ripple's Swell event coming up, and Robert Leshner from Compound Finance is one of the speakers. And we know they're tapping into Akala now and having it bridge there. So I find that really interesting. I don't know what you think, Mickey.
Not many people know this, but Ripple and Robert Leshner and Bain Capital created a DeFi fund back in 2018 together called I would think it was Scout Rowboat Ventures or something like that. And Jeff
McDonald, he's behind the Robot Ventures?
Yeah, he's behind Robot. Ripple is
I didn't realize that.
And
I knew Ripple, yeah.
So that was in 2018 before DeFi even started. So they've had this kind of relationship. He's kind of like the founder of DeFi, which is Compound kind of is. That's how I look at it. They have the big money market account, but they're moving off Ethereum. They're making their own Starport gateway that's going to connect to many networks like Polkadot. They're not stuck on Ethereum. And that's the trend we're starting to see now is these dApps are going to be getting bigger into DAOs to where they're going to become basically the next generation of corporations. And the actual protocols are going to be able to hold value and hold liquidity. And that's the next phase of DeFi 2.0 that's coming. And everyone says, oh, why does Ripple hold all this XRP? It's not the monetary value. And I'm going to keep saying this. It's because that XRP is going to be able to be utilized to incentivize more liquidity on the network. And we're still very early. I just think the community, we need to stay focused. I know there's a fun narrative of talking about the Ethereum stuff. It's all a distraction. What's coming in the next year, I think is going to be super exciting. And there's definitely more partnerships like what you said there, Patty, with Leshner. It's possible that Compound's gateway could easily plug into these side chains on the XRP Ledger. So the fact that he's speaking there, I think speaks volume, because he's kind of the godfather of DeFi, and he's very well respected. His method for distributing the Comp token is what kind of kicked off the summer of DeFi in 2020. So they went from a very centralized protocol to distribute this governance token, and it got massive adoption, and now their governance pretty much handles the protocol itself. And that's how we fight back against these established traditional big banks and the old ways. It's not good versus evil. It's centralized, and the regulations are built into them. DeFi is a way to break down those walls and to level the playing field. And even Ripple knows that. And the XRP Ledger, these are public networks. That's, we've never had something like this where the retail could be involved so much and be really more knowledgeable than the hedge funds out in the Hamptons talking on, a Saturday to their buddies. So it's exciting times. And I think that we just need to be prepared for it. And Flare launching and Polkadot and XRP Ledger, this is definitely not 2017. That's one thing I could say for sure. And very different.
Yeah, Ceej, do you want to jump in on that?
Yeah, I do. And it's funny too, because I remember I saw your tweet, Patty, when you mentioned that. You said you was curious as to why Robert was speaking at the you found it interesting that Robert was going to be speaking at the Swell event. And I just think when I saw that, I thought, holy snaps, like, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Right. And so to me, that speaks of some type of partnership. I didn't even know the thing that Mickey just mentioned with the robot thing. I didn't even know that, but that can be very, very massive. Obviously, what is it? A platform or an entity like Compound sees the value in Ripple's technology. There's no way that they don't know the value there in that technology, and it would just make sense to hook up in some way, shape, form, or fashion. But like Mickey was saying, look, if anyone can become the next Aave or Compound or Maker, it's Ripple. Right. I hear about liquidity mining events in the 100 million here, 50 million there. There's no limit to what Ripple can do in terms of incentivizing liquidity pools. Right. They're just in a great spot. And, like David said in the Apex Summit, that ledger and the technology behind there is just ideal for NFTs, and it's ideal for DeFi. And the smart people, like the people from Compound, they know it. And so I'm excited to see what's going to come out of that Ripple Swell thing. But I'm excited to hear more about some partnerships and what, Ripple is going to be able to do. And the XRP Ledger, we say on the channel all the time, the XRP Ledger, ILP, just pick one, right? They are all massive. And, to see Ripple stepping into that direction, and I don't want to say pivoting, but to see them moving in that direction, I think is phenomenal. Ripple has always been nimble. They've always been very, very mobile. They have genius in motion over there with David Schwartz. And so to see them entering into DeFi and talking AMAs, and, I'm excited to, hopefully I can hear some of this whole thing what Robert has to say at this Swell event. I'm really, really excited to see what that's going to turn into.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, the first thing that just stuck out to me, I was like, they're building an EVM as the first side chain. Like the first side chain is going to be EVM compatible. Compound clearly wants to go multi-chain at this point. Robert Leshner is not, a maxi by any means. And their community seems pretty open. Like I kind of view how this stuff is going to shape out is we're going to have a lot of different blockchains that do, like, all of them may have a lot of similar things, but some of the things, like in the ways that they're designed, they're just going to be much better at. So like on Ethereum, I don't know if anybody saw, but a CryptoPunk, sold for $530 million, but nobody actually made $530 million off the sale. Somebody used something called a flash loan to basically buy their own NFTs so that it would look like it's worth $530 or million, sorry, and then paid it back by the end of the flash loan period. And so a flash loan, to me, like, they are kind of systemically risky because they are used so often in DeFi attacks, but it's also something that is very specific to Ethereum because they have the longer block times, and you can basically do a bunch of like steps within one block. And if the flash loan isn't paid back at the end, none of them actually get realized or like memorialized into that block. So, you know, maybe there are definitely use cases where flash loans are really helpful, but it's like if you don't have those on Flare or Polkadot and they're tapped into Ethereum, you know, we're getting to a place where the blockchains will be able to talk to each other, and you could have, you know, something happen on Flare that causes something to happen on Ethereum, and, you know, so on and so forth. So like, I feel like we're just moving to that world. I mean, look at SushiSwap. I'm pretty sure it's either them or Curve that they have more volume on a daily basis than Uniswap now, even though the Uniswap token is valued way higher than both of those. And SushiSwap's on every blockchain under the sun at this point. Like, they're betting on, look, we got a product that people like, they know our name, you know, move it around. Like, don't make everybody come to one blockchain. Let them pick which works for them and make your service available there.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great point. And I think what Ripple is doing is they're really positioning themselves, and they're learning from, you know, the smart people there. That, you know, what have they done? They're learning from what the people at Aave did and Curve did and what SushiSwap did. And not only they're learning, they still have this, you know, in my opinion, superior technology to add to their learning as well. And so I'm excited to see all the different things that they're going to do. And I think, you know, like Mickey says, the participation is everything. Coming together as a community is everything. And just think, you know, when you think about the new side chains, these federated side chains and these hooks, just think about, for me, I think about Aave and I think about Curve, and I think that Ripple could go in any one of those directions that they wanted to. They could easily go in there, and they have the assets to provide the liquidity incentives that they need. And every developer and every project is going to recognize the advantages of the technology, and they're going to come on board. I really do believe that.
Yeah, and I mean, just think how much capital the XRP Ledger already has with the lawsuit. We know that institutions are involved with the XRP Ledger. A lot of these dApps are going to want a piece of that for sure.
Absolutely. And I think we're going to see a transition from things like Ripple looking at them as the main ones who hold XRP, as in the protocols having their own treasury. Like MakerDAO has been doing this for a couple of years now, but they're a dApp. Now we're seeing this new project that just came out. I posted a link to it. This pretty much defines where I think the future is going to go for many of these big protocols that are going to try to have big DeFi ecosystems with DAOs, is the idea of liquidity as a service. So how can you generate liquidity and distribute a token in value? Like, they're able to give out actual bonds here on this protocol. It's called
Olympus DAO.
Olympus DAO, and then there's Olympus Pro. Bond marketplace for protocol-owned liquidity. So to get what is Ripple? So it's not that they're behind. I think that they've just been waiting, one, for clarity, and two, for the ledger to be enhanced enough and for the innovations to come about so that they could actually deploy that XRP in a way that would drive value on the network. But these networks, they're economies. They're just token economies. So, you know, Ripple doesn't need the XRP, but it could definitely sit in some type of treasury pool that then gets distributed. And even Polkadot's parachains, it's just a fascinating design by Gavin Wood. So we're moving far past the Bitcoin days. And, you know, even the total value locked, Patty, a lot of that goes to arbitrage, and it goes to, you know, big whales and front running miners. So we really need to see a more institutional grade trading infrastructure for these big institutions to really tokenize things. And I think the blue chip cryptos, I don't think they're fully out there that we know who's going to be the winners at the end of the day. I think there's a lot of projects making headway right now. Ethereum 2.0 is going to be a huge event, I think, in the near future. but I think the XRP Ledger in 2022 is going to shock so many people. And David Schwartz, what they built is going to actually come to fruition. So,
yeah, can I?
Excited about it. Go ahead, Patty.
Yeah, I want to jump in on the kind of like the idea behind Olympus DAO, and we're seeing this with a lot of other projects. You know, they're having these community-owned treasuries, and the treasury can make profits off some of the ecosystem. So whether it be fees, you know, maybe you use some, you know, some liquidation penalty that goes to the treasury. You know, this is something that could be used for community insurance. It can be used to buy foreign assets and kind of, you know, diversify what is in the treasury. I mean, once we get tokenized stocks and stuff like that, you can imagine we have this whole DAO community that has a treasury that's managed by people that the DAO hires. And some of the protocol, you know, fees and stuff go into the treasury. You can use it to pay those people that are, you know, maybe you have a research team that's constantly looking into the best things to do, and they make proposals to the whole protocol. Like, I feel like that's where we're going. You know, I've had this notion that I've been thinking about recently. It's like, you know, a lot of these blockchains, like they add the deflationary component with burning fees, but, you know, I don't know how much that does. Like, we barely had, I would say, barely any fees burned compared to the total overall supply on XRP. Now, like, maybe it is better to just burn them, but just kind of thinking, what if that turned into some kind of treasury thing for the whole protocol that was used to fund stuff like this, or it could be used to fund liquidity indefinitely? Like, I was thinking on Songbird, we don't have F asset reward pools. So instead of burning the fees on Songbird, what if we just had those start being, you know, it's just an airdrop to people every single day. So if you use the protocol, you hold assets on there, you collect some of these fees that aren't really going to anybody. They're just disappearing. You know, just different things like that. I kind of imagine these are going to start, you know, they're going to become their own little economies. You know, they'll have different groups of people that working on different ways. Then you'll have, you know, all the lower level participants that hold the assets, maybe aren't involved with development and stuff, but still have a say. So I think it's really exciting. And obviously Olympus DAO has done amazing so far. So it's really blown up the past couple of months.
Yeah, this opens up new types of use cases for corporates and institutions to come in. I mean, our whole economy is supported by bonds, and somebody has to have the value. So if you have all these stakeholders in the network, like, staking is good, it gets you yield, but it's just securing the network. It's not capital efficient. So we need to get past that. And I still think the advantages for XRP and for Spark and XLM2 are that they don't need to be used to secure the network. So with this horizontal scaling, XRP now is free to be used in all these side chains, and it doesn't need another token. So we're going to see tokenization, DeFi, NFTs is another thing, Patty. I think we're going to see a big push to industrial NFTs, to where they're going to be more financial products, and they represent digital rights to things. And this is going to all happen very fast. So this will blend with traditional finance and decentralized finance. But how do you regulate things like DeFi? I think DAOs are probably the best bet, because then at least somebody's accountable for the people who implement that code. But they're never going to get put onto the regulations like the Securities Exchange Commission. So let's just jump into that for a second now with the regarding regulations. The CFTC chairman just came out and said that they want to be the cop on the beat. Ceej on the two chairmen of the two regulatory agencies, CFTC and SEC, both claiming that they want to be the cop on the beat for crypto.
Yeah. Look, I probably get myself in trouble on Twitter a lot, because I use the hashtag Gary Gensler is not your friend all the time on Twitter. But I just think that, I think the agencies, for me, it all depends on, subconsciously, what is the end game for them. And I think the SEC is just full of personal agendas. And I don't see that in the CFTC. I really do not. And so my hope is that, Congress will make the decision to give the nod and the blessing to the CFTC. I don't think that Gary Gensler is making friends with people at Congress. I really don't. I think there's just a certain kind of smug and arrogance that comes across. whenever he's before Congress or he's doing some type of interview. And I think, as human beings, I think they see that. And I think that they know that their constituents are complaining and wanting a certain kind of clarity. And so I do think that and I certainly hope that the CFTC is going to get the nod on that, especially if the dude is he may just be saying that to get some votes, but saying 60% of the digital assets he believe are commodities, that's a great thing for all of us. And so, I hope that he gets the nod, but I do think that the personal agendas of Gensler for political ascension, as I like to say, is becoming more and more obvious. I think people like Rosalind Clayton are recognizing, and I think there's certain Congress people are recognizing it. Ryan Selke was the first one from Asari to kind of point that out. But, I think, in the end, that starts to become glaringly obvious. And I think that hopefully, Congress will lean towards more CFTC, at least expanding what they can currently do, because they can't do as much. They can't write any kind of laws like the SEC can, or rules, I should say, not laws, but rules.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm with you on all that. The article Rosalind Layton put out today, and I think this is like her 5th or 6th, article on the case so far. She's been outstanding. Was really eye-opening as far as, what it looks like Gensler's essentially doing. I don't know if Jerome Powell, the Ched Fairman, or the president of the Fed, is going to, get removed. He has a new term coming up potentially. However, I have heard Janet Yellen floated as going back to the Fed. So that'll be interesting to see, and who would very much, which kind of fits into what you were saying, go to the Treasury.
Right.
To me, that would be Gensler. It seems like. So I definitely think it's kind of this corporate ladder climbing. That article was super interesting on who some of the funders of the MIT Labs project was back in 2018, which I did not know. It was Jeffrey Epstein and Leon Black. So not the most, best names in the space. That's who was funding the MIT Labs. So when Gensler was there as well, I just don't like what's going on. To me, there's very clear hidden agenda, which, I think we kind of know what it is at this point. It's just, it's something the U.S. has been having a lot of problems with, I would say government overreach for a while now. This is just another thing that's happening, and it's affecting, people globally that aren't normally affected by that sort of thing. So.
Absolutely. And I just, I know you asked me for some stuff that we wanted to talk about. I was thinking about this earlier this morning, and I do really think that it's important that we kind of get this message, clear this message up between XRP for retail, it's not for retail, that type of mindset, and kind of talk that's kind of going out there. As I just think it's important to, kind of clear that up, because it just, for me, doesn't make sense that XRP is not for retail. Just like it, when you just look at that, it doesn't make sense. It's a public blockchain. So it doesn't make sense to me. I just hope that people, why have Ripple X or Spring? Why do all of that if it's not for retail? I don't get that, but I do believe, and I think Mickey believes this as well, it is definitely for retail. It may be initially, the company Ripple's initial plan may not have been for retail, but I believe they have solely pivoted and understand that the retail is a big part of the success of the XRP Ledger and the digital asset XRP.
Yeah,
absolutely. I think we proved that with Bifrost, 50,000 wallets, one of the fastest growing wallets ever. And just to build on your point, anyone remember back 2015, 2016, when the narrative was private blockchains, enterprise blockchains, that's the future, blockchain, not crypto. And there were all these PDFs, Big Gardner, all the big publications saying that was the future. And they're all absolutely dead wrong. And none of these private blockchains have really gained any adoption at all. So what would make everyone think, oh, this is just for them. It's a slap in the face to David Schwartz and Arthur Bradot. I feel like when us as a community say things like that, and new people coming in, then have this bias thinking, oh, this is not for us. I'm lucky I'm here. But really, then you miss out on the opportunities that are coming. So we need to drive the community adoption. That's why they have Matt Hamilton, in the community. He's been great helping spread the message. And once we get clarity here, we're going to see what the ledger is actually capable of, because that token is only one component of the of everything, really. It just represents the value. But utilizing the protocol and everything built on it, the assets are meant to be utilized by as many people as possible. Anyone could use it. The SEC's saying XRPs are security. We're fighting with the US government. Has the XRP Ledger stopped? Has anyone not had access? Actually, now we have more access. With Zum Wallet, you're able to go right on the ledger, trade right from your self-custody wallet, and interact with the actual blockchain. So nobody's ever going to be able to stop that. And that's the power of the technology. And as these decentralized applications are built that are truly decentralized, they're going to massively gain adoption. And then CeFi and other types of services and products will be built on top. But we're just not at that point yet. And that's how we fight back against that whole CBDC world control, central bank, that everyone Orwellian, thing that's coming, is that nothing I think is planned. I think it's just going to collide, and these two forces are going in different directions. And I just think that the U.S. needs to maintain the private sector, and I think that's what worries me more than anything, is not supporting our private sector fintech firms that's driven the U.S. economy and our society for so many years, and going after Ripple the way they did.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, also think about it this way. If you look at David Schwartz, his comments on Twitter, what he talks about, like, to me, he seems like the purest libertarian out there, like, with the definition of libertarian. Like, he is spot on with everything he says about that. To me, that is not a person that just builds something only for institutions, or is some part of some scheme to buy back your XRP at $10,000 or something like that. It's not what is going on. First of all, they have zero control over that. So imagine if the Fed went and said, oh, we're going to buy XRP for this much money, and all the validators are like, we don't want the Fed to have XRP. That's just going to recreate the same problems that we used to have. They could all just say, burn, that's gone. To me, it's just, I don't know if people understand that that's possible. Like, I just don't think, like, that's a big deal. The Fed's just not going to, go and buy something for obscene amount of money, for whatever reason, people say it's going to be used for. Also, I feel like just some of that stuff is just too simplistic. I'm like, the world doesn't work like that. It's not black and white. There's really a bunch of different groups of people. Some are good, some are bad, some are in the middle, some, just trying to figure out their way. And with that, it's going to be a lot of innovation, a lot of different things that compete against each other. And I mean, that's the best way to grow. I mean, if anybody played sports or did anything, growing up like that, like competition, that's how you get better. If one ledger like Bitcoin or something is just chosen, then we're going to end up with a product just way worse than we could have ever had. People aren't inherently just going to go and build the best thing. They need to sometimes be driven to it out of necessity. So it just, I guess that's my points on that.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm glad you brought up David Schwartz as well, because I just think that people like David and people like Ashish, right? They're just everyday people, and they seem like good guys. I don't know them personally, but they seem like good guys, and I just can't see them, kind of falling in line and building something and excluding the masses. So for me, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, and all the original devs like Stefan Thomas, David Schwartz, like, they were all Bitcoin guys before they created the XRPL, and they were trying to build a better Bitcoin. Yep. What was Bitcoin built for? Just a decentralized P2P payments platform. Obviously, this stuff has transformed so much more, and they tried to go that route with the XRP Ledger originally, and they just got stunted attempt after attempt after attempt on so many different fronts that I really think it just like hampered them so much. But they have so many things built out. Like they were one of the first people thinking about smart contracts. Like Vitalik was trying to work at Ripple. Like if people didn't know, he stayed on Stephon Thomas's couch when he was trying to intern there, and they took his visa away basically, so he couldn't stay. And then he ended up creating Ethereum. I mean, just think of that one little thing that happened and how much that's affected the whole crypto industry. What if he had stayed? What would have happened? So, yeah.
Yeah, very interesting. And I think that Ethereum, has a story to play here too with Ripple. Gavin Wood and Charles Hotchins, both with the two other co-founders, and they both went off and created their own platforms. And those three are like the big three smart contract platforms. They're all kind of designed with a similar concept of horizontally scaling. So Ethereum 2.0 is going to be similar to Polkadot, but Polkadot was done first, and it's actually launched already. So Vitalik's behind, and Gavin Wood was the brains behind the actual virtual machine, the Ethereum virtual machine, and I think Solidity with the smart contracts. And this modular setup to design a long-term network. It's not just the one blockchain can do everything, and it's going to take over the world. It has to be able to scale.
Do we lose you?
Cut out? Yeah, we may have cut out there, Mickey. Let's see if you can fix that. But yeah, so I guess getting into that with like Polkadot, Mickey's talking about basically this modular design that Gavin Wood created called Substrate. And it's really interesting if you ever look into some of these parachains, how they talk about how they design stuff on their blockchains. Basically, you just have these like palettes for different things. So they have like a Ethereum virtual machine palette in there. They have a WebAssembly smart contract palette. The other day we were looking at stuff. Akala is, like we were saying, connecting with Compound, and basically like this Starport bridge that they're using to connect the ecosystems is just another thing. It's just another palette within this whole modular design, and it's pretty awesome. Like there's another project on there called Star that's creating cross virtual machine communication. So they're going to have like all, they have optimistic rollups. Plasma is going to be on there. They're going to have WebAssembly, EVM and stuff, and they're creating a way for them to actually talk to each other. So it's like, obviously the EVM's amazing. There's so many like great things that have already been built out it, but like anything, nothing's perfect for everything. There's not one thing that's perfect for everything. So WebAssembly will be better for some stuff. So if we get in this world where they can all communicate, all these blockchains can communicate, like just imagine what could be built with all the best parts of these different blockchains working together and being composable.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the ILP, I remember when I first really started paying attention to the ILP when guys, what are the guys there from Ireland? I can't remember their names now. The guy driving in the truck doing videos, and I forget his name. I forget their names now, but
Kurt.
Oh, is it Love for Crypto?
Love for Crypto. Yeah. Remember when Love for Crypto, they were doing those videos, and they were really, for me, they were really first and really getting the big picture for XRP, for the ILP, and I think the Interledger Protocol is still it's like this sleeping giant that a lot of people aren't really paying attention to. And it's funny not paying attention. I think because of all the madness that did happen with Ethereum and these free passes and all this stuff, I think a lot of people stopped paying attention to the XRP Ledger and how amazing that it is. And that just really gave the people at Ripple time to build it out and make it even better. But when every time I hear connection and connectivity, I still think, let's not forget about that ILP. It's still around, right? There's
got to be some of the stuff they're working on with the micropayments and RippleNet, and I'll let Mickey get into it more. But like ILP seems like such a great technology that like it's just waiting for when it can be used. They're like working on all this stuff in the back end. Like, you've seen Chris Larson go on interviews before and talk about, right now we have this world with like millions, hundreds of millions of transactions daily. And people are like, oh, how do we scale to like 10K or 50K TPS? He's like, we need to be thinking about a world that needs to scale to trillions of transactions, because all these cars talking to each other, smart cities, all this different kind of stuff, like Internet of Things. That's going to require tons and tons of transactions. And there's a lot of things that's going to go into that. But that's kind of the world we're going into. Like, I would expect all this stuff, just like prices and inflation and stuff is exponentially increasing. So too, I imagine, all the transactions and the things that we know are common today.
Yes, absolutely. And the idea here is to drive liquidity. That's always been Ripple's thing that they've always said, global liquidity solution. That's what the community thinks. Hey, we want it to be the reserve asset. To be a global liquidity solution and to have liquidity, you need to incentivize liquidity. So I saw again in the comments, this amazes me, the burning of the escrow. All right, it is like crazy talk. Just please read the Olympus paper. Every project is trying to incentivize liquidity. That's what you need to do. So the assets they hold are going to be used for that purpose. All right, here. So we don't want to burn the escrow. That doesn't help XRP in that way. And RippleNet's built on Interledger, Patty. So all those technologies are still being used by Ripple on RippleNet. Now, we don't know a lot about RippleNet, but uses predominantly the same software on the node structure, at least as the XRP Ledger. So one day, they'll be able to just connect to each other. And all those 500 banks use the same standardized Ripple APIs, and they're all connected. And all you need to do is plug them into the ledger when clarity comes. And we haven't had that yet, but I think Ethereum, some of these things got out in front, but there's going to be a leapfrog time. When these institutions come, they're going to want things that are enterprise ready. And that's what Hugo talked about. When Flare's launched, it's enterprise ready. Institutions can build on it without having to worry about proof of work, without proof of stake, and centralization there that comes with it. The XRP Ledger is as robust as they come. It just doesn't have the activity on it of the other ledgers. And I think this is one thing that's missing here. But soon we'll be able to have that capability and be able to interact moving forward with the ledger and actually participating in earning revenue, because there's so many opportunities to, build wealth here. At this point, we're like at the perfect stage to, set up for generations ahead. We know things are transitioning to blockchain and crypto, and this new financial products are being developed right now. So there's no better place to be as long as you know where to look. So it's just exciting here to talk about this and be a part of this community. It's only going to get more exciting.
Yeah, absolutely. And I agree with you. And I'm glad that you keep hammering home. You guys keep hammering home cash flow and, creating cash flow and generating wealth, and asset appreciation has its place, but it's no longer the end game. Back in the day, it used to be the end game. But today, with the ability to create cash flow, I would encourage everyone that's listening to go study the Curve Finance ecosystem. They have like a top 10 or top 20 list of people there, and the income that they're making. And by the way, they made it during the bear market would just blow your mind. And we're talking about a crypto that just recently in the last couple of days it's gone over $2, right? And so to me, that is absolutely phenomenal to think about that. And that model of incentivizing you to hold on to the asset, that's what the Curve Finance ecosystem is about, holding on to a valuable asset and create cash flow. I think that is just, it's the model going forward. And you just see I love it. You see a lot of average Joe and average Janes on that list there that have massive cash flow because they bought in to an ecosystem and they walked away from cashing out that asset. I think it's genius in motion. I think that is the way going forward. And I just hope that people can kind of see that for themselves. A lot of times I think the hang up, guys, with people is that they don't see the generational wealth for themselves. That's why it's so easy to kind of get the 5 or 10 or 20 million and think, okay, cool, everything's awesome, right? And so there are more things that can be done here. There's a big time chance for significant generational wealth. And part of that is having the asset, having it, not getting rid of it, not getting rid of it, holding on to the asset, and so that you can create cash flow. And that curve model is genius. And I just, when I heard David talk about that staking, that XRP, I was just thinking, oh my God, if they do something like Curve has done, it's going to be just a huge, huge blessing for us all.
Yeah. What if we? Oh, go ahead.
I just want to throw one thing in on Curve to go with Ceej's point here. I'm looking at a DeFi metrics page, and it has DEX TVL rankings, and Curve is number one. It's on Ethereum, Polygon, Harmony, Avalanche, and several Phantom and a couple others. Has $19 billion in total value locked. The next highest is SushiSwap at $6.4 billion. Also, the ratio of the market cap of the Curve token is 10% of the TVL. If you look at the Uniswap token and the original Uniswap version, it's at a 2.39 multiplier to its market or TVL, which, I'm not as, I don't know as much on the Curve tokenomics and stuff, why that would be. But also, you see Curve's multi-chain, and it's doing the stuff like you're talking about, and it just has massive TVL in it to this point.
Yeah, we're going to have this opportunity with Probity on Flare. It's going to be a DAO. It's going to be built like a decentralized bank. And that's, I think the future here. Wyoming just gave out, I think it was the first actual license for a full DAO. I think a couple more are coming, where that's kind of where we could get the next level of protocols here. Because Uniswap, Compound, those are dApps just built on Ethereum. But when you could have, an underlying blockchain that actually doesn't have crazy gas fees, isn't congested, doesn't have front running, and has other supporting DeFi around it, that's when things really get interesting. And I think that's what Flare with the XRP Ledger together. So since there's that Solaris bridge, things are going to be able to move back and forth seamlessly. So anything that's on Flare could go onto the XRP Ledger trustlessly. Any asset that's issued, security token, anything. And with Flare having the oracles and the collateral system and smart contracts, and the XRP Ledger having a DEX built into it, I'm looking forward to what they're going to build with that DEX and all the new technologies now with automated market making, money market accounts, and lending. Ripple's already done line of credit. So that's the other thing with the escrow. Ripple's able to act as a credit facility and lend at no cost. So a lot of these other protocols, they spin up, their token's worth nothing. So this, what is it called? Olympus, their token's brand new. Nobody knows about it. Is it going to have value? XRP already proven to have value for 8 years. So them holding this back for so long is part of a bigger strategy that's going to be utilized. They're just not going to show their hand yet. And it's not for them to pay off the world's debt or to sell. They have 500 billion in the bank. How they go about incentivizing liquidity and certain structures on the network, I think will be done more through AI, machine learning, because they just launched that now. So that was something that was done in 2017 during the Bank of England proof of concept, and they deleted all the info on it. So data and AI is perfect for what RippleNet is. Swift can't compete with that. So I see Ripple pivoting back to crypto after this case ends and running with the, like the World Series parade. Once you win the case, if we get clarity on XRP and they lose the investment contract case, everything's great. That's all we need. That could drag out for a whole nother 6 months. But what they're building here on the XRP Ledger, ability to use your XRP, I think that's going to drive a lot of adoption within the community. People have been bored, and I think they see XRP's price and they're like, it's manipulated, it's suppressed. How can it stay down this long with this much, integration into the traditional markets and the banks? It makes no sense. But now we see why it's an SEC case. So what do you expect, Ceej, once this case wraps up from Ripple?
Well, so, the whole case thing, this whole settlement versus summary judgment thing, it was very reassuring to hear Brad Garlinghouse, when he was speaking with Charles Gasparino, say that, look, let me make this perfectly clear. There is no settlement without clarity on XRP, not being a security, right? And so I think that is hugely important to understand. So that there isn't an outcome, and I do think that Ripple is favorably ahead in both any kind of settlement terms or in summary judgment. But for me, being an XRP holder, to know that that's where they stand, that they're not going to settle for something less than that, I think is significant. And I do believe 10,000% that the U.S. markets, the U.S. capital markets, they're standing by, holding their breath, if you will, waiting to get that clarity. And once they do, that, to me, they're going to be all in. Without question, I believe they're going to be all in, not just the banks, but the FIs, the SMEs, the money transmitter businesses. All of them are going to be all in. And I think it's going to shock some people. It really is going to shock some people. And me personally, I think that they're waiting for people to go around selling their XRP. That's what I think. I think they're waiting for people to go sell their XRP.
Question for you, Patty. Do you think that we are in a super cycle of the markets right now? You and I talked about this blog post from this crypto derivatives exchange that broke it down pretty well. So I just want to hear your thoughts on that.
Oh, I mean, to me, absolutely. Like when they kind of explain that, and it's from Deribit, if anybody's familiar with them, they kind of went into past cycles and stuff like that. And I've kind of thought this for a while. The money printing wasn't as severe. The interest rates were a little higher. Just a lot of different things. Obviously we had COVID, so we've had to give a lot of stimulus out around the world. So all that stuff kind of leads into me thinking super cycle. So, I personally think Bitcoin is going to blast through 100K and go much higher than that. Like, especially like there are more and more people that are able to get into the game at this point. So, we see they have an ETF. Yeah, it's not great for retail because most people don't understand how futures work. So, that can be an issue for them instead of just, settling into actual Bitcoin. That's much easier to understand. But there are people with lots of money that do know how futures work. Additionally, what if we kind of get into next year? Let's say we have this super cycle. Let's say it ends maybe February or something like that, and we finally get a pretty significant pullback, which, I think everybody should 100% expect to pull back at some point. It just depends when it happens, and it will be fast, because if you go up that fast, generally you're going to come down really fast too. So with that, though, I personally think that there will probably be some kind of clarity to the markets next year from the legislator. Like, there's going to be a what do they call them? The midterms or whatever, happening in fall 2020 in the US. And there are a ton of crypto investors in the US. So, I've seen different people or like thought leaders in the space, like they're organizing to, teach Congress or whoever it may be, the regulators, like about crypto, what's actually going on. So for me, it's like super risky to move all of my assets out when I know that there's all this development happening. Like with a snap of a finger, we could see these institutions in and being able to buy up a bunch of crypto, especially if it's after a bull run when it's pulled back. That would be an opportune time for them. So, what if the bear market cycle is actually really short rather than this long drawn out one that everybody seems to be expecting? And I kind of think once everybody knows what the game is, then it's going to change. Like once everybody figures out, Bitcoin does this and it follows this, and everybody believes that, that's when it gets flipped on its head. So to me, it's like, I'm definitely like, in case I'm wrong on that, I'm going to hedge it, and I'm definitely going to sell some assets when it gets high. But also if the market falls, 50 to 70% again, I can buy in lower, or I have some fiat and I can take a win for once. So for me, like, there's just so much going on with all these networks. Like Cardano isn't even fully out. Polkadot's just going to be barely fully getting out. XRP Ledger is going to have DeFi next year. Flare Networks is going to have DeFi. Solana is only going to be getting better. Same with Avalanche. And then if ETH 2.0 comes out, there's just so many things. And that's all the big blockchains, let alone all these new projects that are working on derivatives, real estate, tokenization. It's just so much money, because people saw the potential last time, has been getting poured into the market for the past 3 years. And I don't think it's any surprise that there are a bunch of massive layer ones that all are launching within the same 1 year period. I think because last time everybody kind of figured out, or briefly before 2017, that this stuff's legit, and a bunch of money got poured in to develop this stuff. And like, that's where we're at now. And whether it's 2022 or 2023, when we get clarity or something like that, I mean, it's eventually going to come. It may not be perfect, but it'll allow these institutions to get in, as well as the tech expanding. So, on top of regulations, things that'll continue to improve liquidity, privacy is getting entered, protect the alpha of these institutions and hedge funds or professional traders if you just do it on your own and have a lot of money. And then also the custody aspect, which we know there's behind the scenes people that are going to have permission blockchains. Like, you got Fireblocks, you have PolySign, standard custody, and many, many more. I think Mickey said like over 100. Is it 100 like asset custodians at this point?
130.
Yeah, it's crazy.
We're not in 2018 where it's like, have trouble getting off the exchange, when you couldn't sign up and all that went down. It's been 3-4 years of building, and we have utility now. Like, people want to hold the assets because they're utilizing the assets. And even if they're like, okay, maybe I'm not going to hold, we're in a downturn, I'm going to grab some stable coins and I'm going to go in the curve pool, and I'm going to set up revenue streams that's going to then earn me other revenue streams. And I'm just going to build that value and then move it throughout the whole financial marketplace that's being built in DeFi. So DeFi doesn't get stopped because of regulations, though. Chain analysis report growing 800%, skyrocketing in all third world countries. So Gary Gensler, these regulations really don't affect retail's aspect of that. The innovation progression is at warp speed. That's going to continue. It's the institutions who can't yet enter yet. And I think some things need to be solved. Digital identity is one with the travel rule, which could easily be solved. But it's the adoption of the protocols and the different ways to use your assets. In 2017, 2018, it was like, I buy it for speculating, and then the projects weren't built yet. Okay, I'll sell it. I made my money. And now it's different. A lot of people have assets staked. They're getting revenue. And, once this run ends, I don't know how much is going to pull out the way it did in the past. That's the difference that I see. You see these projects have exploded. Phantom, Terra Luna, Avalanche, Cosmos, they're exploding at paces that are, unbelievable, many of them, out of nowhere. Cardano, Polkadot, there's so much money pouring into them. And when you see the number of projects being built on them and the partnerships to make them composable, it's actually just mind-blowing. And it's hard to keep up with.
Yeah, it really,
it really is. But it's, go ahead, Ceej.
Yeah, you're right, man. It really is. It really is mind-boggling. And the great thing about it is we have so many more choices today, like you alluded to, Mickey, than we did have back in 2017, 2018. And I always want to make people understand when I say moving out of crypto, I'm talking about you didn't take a stable coin position. You took the USD, you took the dirty, nasty fiat position, right? And so we have more opportunities to do things with our stable coins, whether it be on Celsius or whether it be on Curve. We have more opportunities to be both a lender and a borrower than we did in 2017 and 2018. And, once people recognize that, I think that they'll make the smarter move. So just understand that, taking profit and, whether it be 30, 40, 50, 65, it doesn't matter. And putting it into stable coins is, I'm not talking about that. That's, that's our move. That's the thing that we'll be doing. We'll be in the stable coins and we will be earning, whether it be on Celsius or whether it be on Curve, or whether it be on Terra Luna, we're going to be earning significant cash flow from that. But we're staying in crypto, and then whenever we have to do something in the other world, we know that the cash flow is there, but we still have the valuable asset, if you will. We still have that asset. And so it's with all the choices that we have today, it's just no reason, or there's no excuse really not to get that cash flow the way that you like it. There's a danger in just having money in USD, and then being out there in that world, it can suck you in. And the next thing you know, you're buying Lambos and Raris, and you're wondering what happened to that money, right? And so
that's a good point.
Yeah, you know what I mean? We don't want to be in that position.
Yeah, I mean, you're probably not as easy to do that if it's in stable coins. And also, if you have stable coins, you actually have something to do with it. So, I mean, Ceej, I know you've looked around across some of these different protocols out there. Like anything, any of them in particular you particularly like for a situation where maybe you want to cash out to stable coins for a few months?
Well, yeah, I do. So for me, UST is awesome with what Terra Luna is doing. I think that it's a phenomenal ecosystem. I like what they're doing there because they really put all their energy and their thinking into making that UST as powerful as possible. And you can see more and more people picking up UST as well. And again, for me, Celsius is a good one also, right? And so when I think about portfolio allocation of my stable coin, right? I think Celsius is in that mix as well because it's highly secure. It's over the long term, it's very consistent, and I do like it. But they're not the only game. They're a great game, but they're not the only game in terms of what you can do with your stable coins. I really like what Terra Luna is doing. Obviously, Curve is just genius in motion. And if you got stable coins, I don't know why you wouldn't be over there because it's relatively safe. It's not completely safe, right? Because there's always some, there can always be an issue. But when you think about doing work with your stable coins, for me, I always want to have some over there as well. So that's where I divide our stable coins between Terra, between Celsius, and between Curve. I like those three. Who knows? I heard this, and I think I don't know if it's Lido or something with the L that has a good one as well, but I haven't been over there yet. But, again, I started out small with all three of those platforms, started out very, very small, $100 here, $200 here, and then just eventually just ramp things up significantly because they all have a unique asset that they bring or value that they bring to the space. I think Celsius is phenomenal for increasing the size of the pie. You got to be careful in DeFi because in DeFi you can be just kind of trading, if you will, handing your groceries off to one another in there. You got to be careful of that. You need to expand the pie. And that's what Celsius does. They have this great model for bringing new people into the space. They hang out on Celsius for a year or so, year and a half or so, and then they're off to DeFi, right? And so we need the size of the pie to increase. So for me, with stablecoins, it's Celsius, it is definitely Terra Luna, and it is without question Curve.
I think we're going to see, can I just throw in there one
Yeah,
thing?
go ahead.
That the CeFi, like what you're saying with Celsius, they're going to play a huge role in the future, as in being the ones who are the gateways into DeFi for the masses. Because not everyone is going to want to have a self-custody wallet and to have a seed phrase to be able to aggregate with the blockchain. And we're in the early pioneer stage, but they could aggregate that with a nice front end and still offer the high yields. And that's, I think, the next phase of, DeFi 2.0 is when these institutions, they could aggregate it all on the back end and then just offer the yield, like Robinhood, PayPal's going to do it, Square. I just want to answer one question here, Patty. So somebody asked, is it possible that Flare could just announce a bunch of new F assets before they launch? And will that hurt our rewards?
I think that was my brother trolling.
And somebody else asked, well, I thought Flare was really going to be something, but I don't understand what's happening. Well, they're testing. Okay, Songbird just launched. The one good thing with Flare is when it does launch, it's 100% ready to go. Like there's no roadmap for like 5 other things to take place over 2022. It's fully launched, smart contracts, decentralized, Oracle system, F asset system, state connector system. Everything's ready to go. So when it's launched, it's done. They don't want to launch something half-assed to just get everyone their tokens to be happy. They want it, enterprise grade. They don't care if the bull runs, in the middle of bull run, not in a bull run. This is an infrastructure. And I want to talk about governance here. Once the network launches, there'll be no more unilateral decisions. It'll be up to the community. So we'll be discussing on here there's a proposal to add this asset, and the community will have to vote on it, and it will be one vote per token. So the more spark you have, the more influence you have. Hugo and the team have no influence. So I doubt we see any other F assets until it launches. I doubt we'll see any other unilateral decisions made, and governance is going to be very important on the Flare network because we actually have a say. All of us, we have a voice, and that's what's great about the liquid democracy setup. Ethereum, Bitcoin, XRP, Stellar, Litecoin, they don't have good governance. Well, XRP is okay, but the other ones, there's no voice. So we as a community will have a voice. We won't have to complain, about things being delayed, about this happening, because it's our network. And I think, we got to understand that as a community, it's given to us, not marketed to us. So it's up to you if you want to participate. But if you do participate, you know that you get a token that comes with yield, and the token comes with governance vote. So those are two utilities that are attached to the native Spark token that's getting airdropped to you. No risk yield and governance vote. And then you could use it as collateral simultaneously if you want.
Oh, absolutely, Mickey. I think, it's going to be really interesting to see how that plays out. And certainly, it'll be a little bumpy, probably getting off. I think one of the big things we'll have to deal with is voter apathy. So that's why I'll definitely, keep stressing, if you don't want to pay attention to everything and vote on everything, find somebody you can delegate to that is doing that and that you can trust. In fact, I think you're being, like, if you want to call yourself a citizen of the Flare network, I think you're being an outstanding one for doing that. Nobody should be expected to do every single vote. And the person you delegate to may be like, hey, you know what? I don't know enough. So I'm going to tell everybody I'm going to delegate to this person instead and let them make the decision. It doesn't have to just be to one person. It can kind of grow this tree, which I find really interesting. Like Ceej, I almost think if we had something like a liquid democracy within the republic setting in the US, that could be really interesting because there's immediate accountability. If somebody does something that's totally off base and not with the people that are giving their votes to that person, then you can flip it and go away and remove all their power.
Absolutely. I love it.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I absolutely love that. And so with Flare, Flare is doing everything. I think it's doing things the right way. And that's why I say, be all in on an ecosystem, because there's so many things that you could just stretch yourself so thin that you don't know anything about anything because you're just so stretched in all these different ecosystems, right? And so that's why I was saying before we hopped on that I hadn't paid attention to Terra or Anchor or Solana or Avalanche. I haven't paid attention to it in months. I just participated with my assets. I participated and provided liquidity and obviously the stablecoin stuff. But I was all in on Flare Network. I was all in on what's going on in the XRP ecosystem so that I can be better informed to make better decisions. And I just think that is the move going forward, is be all in on an ecosystem. Again, I'm not talking about all your money, but I'm talking about in your energy and your research and your knowledge and all of those different things, right? If you listen to Hugo the other day on that Thinking Crypto interview, I mean, that was phenomenal. Just when you listen to that guy and what they're looking to do, just it's massive. It is absolutely, it's a complete game changer. And for an XRP holder, why would you not know more about this thing that you own? Like, you own it. Like, why would you not know more about it? Why would you not go all in on it? This one ecosystem, in my opinion, can create generational wealth for you. I really do believe that.
You're absolutely right. And I think that goes with many ecosystems. All these other things can be built on top of it. And if you're an expert in that ecosystem, you're going to be at the forefront. Either you're going to get an airdrop or you're going to get special incentives to get access to these new projects and new tokens of value before anyone else. And that's going to happen on Flare and on the XRP Ledger. So, there's plenty of opportunities on Flare, I think, and the XRP Ledger alone to do all of that. Like YFin, Flare Finance. There's going to be just your FXRP alone sitting on Flare is going to earn you a daily stream of passive income that you could then go deploy and go lend out and earn more with. So, Spark is kind of a yield-bearing asset natively. And I think the community just has to understand that. We've had almost a year to learn how it operates. And we've had plenty of time. We're a large community, so it's very rare that an established community is given a network at this scale with this level of technology that is decentralized from the beginning and uses the Ethereum standards, smart contracts, and has a native token airdrop to them and has yield. So this is a very unique situation that Forks, Bitcoin Cash didn't have. You think about it, Solana, Terra Luna, Avalanche, they had to create their own communities. And look at what they've got. So we have so much more ways to go as a community, I think.
I think that shows really strongly in what the Songbird price is right now. I mean, it has a higher market cap than Kusama at the moment. Maybe they're right around each other. I haven't looked at the price in a couple days, but to me, that just says a lot about the XRP community. I think the reason that the Flare team picked us is we're one of the largest, most active communities that's been underserved for years to this point for stuff that we can do as just individuals. And I really do believe in what they're doing with that model. I mean, it gives them a way to distribute the token, gives them people immediately that want to utilize the token, like just so much that, David Schwartz talks about the hardest part is distributing the token. And Flare has a really well thought out plan on how they want to do that. And, it includes, thank goodness, the XRP community, because, if that didn't happen, a lot of us would just be kind of sitting here. And I feel like a lot of people, if they weren't getting that airdrop, probably would have forgot about it and, never came back to think about it just because, these things take a while.
Yeah, that's a really great point. I just hope that everyone's really kind of getting the message. And I applaud you, Patty and Mickey, for being consistent and putting out videos every single day and educating us all on how massive Flare networks can be. Patience is a cool deal. It really, really is. And so that although we're waiting, I think that's a good thing. That we're waiting, because I think we'll appreciate it more when it does launch. And I just hope that you guys can get the bigger picture. We're blessed, and if you will, earned this blessing by being such an awesome community of content creators, or being an awesome community of buying in and doing research and educating ourselves, right? So in a lot of ways, we've quote unquote earn this Spark token. And I think it's important to now take advantage of that and begin to do individually for us to do our part and to begin to take advantage of what's going on with Songbird. I was one of those guys who I made the mistake of not self-custodying and decided to do my whole thing through Celsius. And so, right. So now I had to learn from that, if you will, mistake. So I had to go out and buy Songbird, but there was no way that I was going to not participate. There was zero chance, right? So I went out and bought my Songbird, and I know eventually I'll get the Songbird eventually. So, and even if it's after November, for me, it doesn't matter, because I believe that Songbird is going to become its own entity, its own ecosystem is going to be built around it. And, I'll have that valuable asset as well.
Yeah,
absolutely. Just to throw this out there, when we get clarity, which is probably going to come with this lawsuit, and when Flare launches next year, it's going to be everyone in Ethereum waiting for ETH 2.0, right? So as much as we feel like we're waiting for something, once it does happen, then at least we'll start to see progress, and it'll happen very rapidly with Flare and the XRP Ledger. So at that point, a lot of projects are going to try to spin up on Flare because it's EVM, and we're going to have to be careful of just trying not to jump in every little thing, because there's going to be a lot of incentive programs. Hey, we'll do this and we'll airdrop you that. We'll liquidity mining here, because that's all going on. Flare, the team, hasn't been very upfront with their communications and documentations of trying to explain the Flare network. Excuse me. And this is on purpose, because they don't want to be the face of the network. And I think the community, usually expects, hey, explain this to us, tell us why it's so great, who else is building on it, Give us documentation, and Hugo and the team, they're more, developers, and they're building, the network, and then they just want to be a participant. And I think we have to really understand it's a infrastructure for us. It's not their network, it's our network, and it's going to be there for decades to come. So you don't rush the rollout. And even David Schwartz praised Songbird as a Canary network because that allows the testing of all these things in the real world value. ETH 2.0 is going to have to launch without a Canary network, and there's risks involved there. So I know there's a lot of focus on the ETH 2.0 scandal and stuff, but that's, besides the point. ETH 2.0 is important for crypto. It's, going to be foundational for crypto industry, but in my opinion, ETH's not going to swallow the market. I don't think it's going to flip in Bitcoin. I think that enough networks have caught up now and have been able to, establish themselves while gas fees and all the flaws are exposed on Ethereum, but they're still going to have, a core component of, crypto. But who knows what happens in a few years? Just like Patty was saying, Compound is now not attached to Ethereum anymore. So, we'll see more of a separation of these actual networks trying to be like ETH killers going forward in the future. There was another question for you, Patty, I saw on here. You can answer.
Sorry, I was just blocking people or putting people on timeout for shilling coins I've never heard of.
Squid coin.
We've never had that before.
No.
We'll know this Pape one. A bunch of people are just messaging it.
But I think the community, there is a importance to, be loyal and believe in XRP long term, but at the same time, be open to potential other opportunities. And I think there's some people in the community who have done a great job talking about other things that are also, doing great things and are going to have a lot of value in the future. Cardano, I know Hedera people talk about. We focused kind of on Polkadot. We kind of pivoted to, and we're going to talk about that more because I think that's a really great design. But leaving off here, Patty, any final thoughts before I wrap it up?
No, I just saw Tim hop in. He said, that he hadn't thought about the fact that Ethereum has no Canary network. But if people weren't aware, Cosmos is building their own Canary network. And I actually saw some chatter going on that Ethereum is looking at doing the same potentially, which I actually think is a great, especially for Ethereum, since they're switching consensus. That is probably a great idea to maybe come up with a Canary network to test a lot of that out on beforehand. Obviously these side chains on the XRP Ledger can be used in that way as well. So that seems to be a trend that everybody kind of agrees at this point is a pretty good move. We got multiple top blockchains thinking about it or having done it already.
Yeah. And, the community has been the ones who's educated the community on Flare. So I think, a lot of people get it now. They know what's coming, but I still think the learning curve is kind of steep for new people. But, as a community, we learn together. And I just think this is a great opportunity and it's coming. Maybe it'll be a nice Christmas gift.
That would be sweet. Question though, real quick, Ceej. Are you, when XFi comes out or Songbird Finance, are you going to try maybe dabble in that at all?
When what comes out, buddy?
Songbird Finance from Flare Finance on.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, I was going to say, after that kind of gets going, that would definitely be interesting to have you back on and we can all talk about our experiences using that. Maybe things that worked, didn't work for us too. So hopefully that'll be, we got the XFi airdrop coming up November 5th, and it's at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So just make sure that, you have the SGB or wrapped SGB tokens. It can be either or. They're allowed to be delegated. Just make sure they're in a self-custody wallet like Bifrost, Decent, Ledger, MetaMask. I think you're fine if you have it on BitTrue. I feel like they'll honor the XFi airdrop. I wouldn't be worried about that at all. I think they realize, hey, they jumped on the XRP community early on, and they're doing the same with Flare and Songbird, which I think is great for their exchange. So, some exchanges I think the right way, but
and we also got Probity is going to be launching their testnet on, well, not testnet, but they're going to be launching on Songbird soon once they're finished with their audits. That's the trust line component. That's the vault, where you could lock up XRP or Spark or Songbird, and then mint the decentralized stablecoin. So that's something also that's exciting. That's going to be able to be moved on the XRP Ledger. So that should be coming soon too. And I think, Patty, we should see more like apps release some kind of applications for us to test. And it's possible, I'm hoping, that we'll be able to test minting F assets on Songbird before they do it on the Flare network. And also it'd be nice to maybe be able to do something with NFTs on Songbird.
Yeah, I know that stuff is in the works right now with some people working on NFTs. I believe Sparkles is planning on coming out with a marketplace first on Songbird. I think they'll have more information on that in a week or two. So definitely excited about that as well. I kind of started getting into a few NFTs of late, and it's very, very interesting what I'm going through right now. So
it's another big part of what's happening now in this adoption curve. This came out of nowhere, you know, from taking over digital art, royalties, music, all different things. And that's going to move into, you know, I think new types of industrial NFT use cases with digital rights and things like that. And Cosmos is building their bridge to, Patty. I think it's called Gravity. So there's a lot of good projects on Cosmos to look into that are developing. And Polkadot and Cardano, these are the times when you could get into projects that are, you know, one of the first on those core blockchains that spun up with advanced new smart contract tech and, you know, are just getting going. So there is definitely plenty of opportunity there. You know, we're not traders here, so we don't try to trade. I don't go for the micro caps, but there's a lot of stuff in the middle right now that's very interesting. So eyes open.
Yeah, before we go out real quick, Ceej, do you mind just telling people where they can find you and all that?
Oh, yeah,
they want to go check out your channel more for anybody for the first time they've heard
you.
Yeah,
Absolutely. So it's Crypto Ceej, which is CEEJ, one word, Crypto Ceej on YouTube. And on Twitter, it is crypto_Ceej, CEJ. And on Facebook, it is the Crypto Ceej, CEEJ on Facebook as well. So
you mean Meta, right? Did you see that? The Facebook name change?
No.
They're going to be called Meta now. They're going
all in. Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Hilarious. It's interesting.
Cool. Well, it was a pleasure having you on as always. I know last time I got to talk to you when you came on and thought that was a great conversation and just so much we can flow into. So it was really great. Mickey, any last things?
Yeah, thank you, Ceej. I always, you know, love listening to your videos because you have the same mindset that, you know, Patty and I came across, that, you know, this is how you could build wealth through passive income. And you have to look beyond just the speculation and even looking outside the XRP, you know, and, you know, we just have a similar message. So I think, you know, Ceej is definitely somebody to follow, and check out his channel, check out on Twitter, because I'm not going to try to knock anybody, but there's a lot of noise in the community. So
yeah, about stuff that's ultimately we have no control over.
Exactly. And I think it's important to for the passive income setups. Like if Ceej finds something that's like, wow, this is great with stable coins, this is how we could share information and, you know, get it to the community. So your message that you spread actually inspired me a lot when we created this channel. So thank you.
Yeah, man, thank you. And I appreciate you guys hanging out. And I would just encourage you guys to continue doing what you're doing. The message that you're sharing is hugely, hugely important. And I hope that you don't become wary in all the good that you're doing. I hope you guys continue to push on.
No, we plan to, and we plan to, you know, be a part more of the, you know, the community with governance. I think that will be an interesting conversation when we're debating, you know, do we want to raise inflation or do we want to lower inflation? And just how does the community, you know, debate that and talk about it? Do you want to be greedy and want more inflation, or is this, you know? So there's going to be some interesting transition for us as a community moving forward with that participation.
Absolutely. All right. Well, thank you very much for coming on, Ceej. This is the DeFi Standard on Patty XRP.
Mickey B. Fresh.
And we're out. See y'all.
Thank you, Ceej.